Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, and I am so glad you're here because we are going to be painting one of my favorite flowers, which is a peony. If you're new here, my name is Emily Winslow and I'm a watercolor artist who loves to spread the joy of art to others. Now, I live in Indiana and peonies are one of our state's most beloved flowers, so I'm so excited to show you how to paint this today. So in today's video, I'm going to be using this Praying Oval 16 watercolor kit. It's super affordable on Amazon. You can go ahead and grab it in the link in my description. And then for our brushes, we're going to be using two main ones. I have a size 12 and a size 8. They're both round watercolor brushes. And then of course we have our water and our paper. I have my paper cut to a size 6 by 8 inches. All right, let's go ahead and get this painting started. I'm not going to worry about sketching out these flowers. We're just going to go ahead and get into it. So let's go ahead and grab our colors. I'm going to mix maybe a peachy color for one of them. I might try to vary my colors a bit. You can make these whatever color that you want. Let's start with the middle flower. We're going to make these facing different ways. So for this middle one, I'm going to make it so that it's facing towards the front. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to add some petals in the middle here and leave space in the center because that's where we're going to put some yellow and brown to make the center. So for this initial layer, we are going to go in C strokes. So we're making our brush go in like a semicircle motion. The flowers that are going to surround it are going to be facing different ways. So when we do the one above it, it's going to be facing upwards. Okay, now that we have a light layer, I'm going to work on it while it's still wet and go in with like a darker color. So I'm going to take some red and brown and go ahead and dab that at the base of the petals. It helps to work on the petals while they're still wet. That way it helps blend the paint. But we're also going to go in after it dries to add some more of those sharper lines. So this is called the wet on wet technique when you're working on watercolor that is still wet. I'm going to go in with an even darker color for one more layer. Maybe add some purple in there. I use purple a lot in the shadows. I think it helps add more depth to your painting when you use different colors that you may not have thought about using. I use a lot of purple and blues in my shadows, and I always thought shadows were done with like black, and they can be, but it definitely helps to have other various colors in there. Okay, let's go ahead and do the flower above it. So I'm going to go ahead and mix that light color again. I might want this one to be more of like a pink rather than peach. I'm just going to take my red and white, and then for this one we're going to keep a white space like this open here towards the top, and we're going to make our little oval shapes around that center. But then we're going to go ahead and make some bigger strokes for the petals that are around that. So it helps when we vary the size of these petals. Instead of just making them all one size, it helps with the perspective. And then I want these flowers that are towards the top to be larger again. And then I'm going to make a few that are kind of look like they're about to fall off. So they're open. We want these petals to look like they are open. So I'm going to make it kind of triangle shape. So wider towards the bottom. And then it comes to a point near the top. So let's go ahead and do what we did before and go in with a darker color. Adding that to the base of all the petals. It's okay if your paint has started to dry a little bit. You can just go over with some more water if you want to make it wet again, so you can continue with your wet on wet technique. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and add even a darker color, so more purple, maybe a little bit of blue in this one. You can tell that my paint has started to dry, so I'm just going to go ahead and add some more water here. I've always had to practice with our water to paint ratio because it can be a little bit difficult to master that. I've definitely, added too much water at some points, and that can make it hard to control the paint when you have too much water. So you just really have to figure out that balance, and really that's done by a lot of practice. It's, not an exact ratio, but something that you're just going to have to play with. Okay, let's go ahead and do another flower here. And this one I want it to be maybe a little bit more closed. So let's go ahead and again get our light color that we want. And I'm just gonna make it more closed. So what I'm gonna do is make an oval shape for a large petal here. And then we're gonna go with some really small strokes that would be where the center is. But we're not going to have as big as an opening because I want this flower to be a little bit more closed than the other ones. I'm just making some more bigger petals around that center. Like that. And I'm going to go ahead and add our darker colors here. I always think that peonies kind of look like roses when you first start painting them, just because they don't have that yellow center that we're going to add later on. So right now they might look a little bit more like roses. But we're going to go back after these dry a bit to add that center. Now that we've added these shadows, I am happy with how this one looks. I think I'm going to do another one about this size right here, and then maybe one more really small one here. And then I think what I'm going to do at the end, I love the look of peonies with some baby's breath, so I think we're going to go ahead and add those two at the end. Again, with this one, I'm just going to start with that same motion of making a big oval shape and then some smaller leaves around it. Sorry, not leaves, petals. And then again, adding these little dotted motions for that center. Let me know what your favorite spring flower is. In my last video, I said mine were tulips because they're easy to take care of. They come back every year and you don't have to do much to keep them going. I do have one plant that is in my living room. It's like, I don't know the name of it. It looks like a mini palm tree. But I've had that for actually since 2020. So it's going on, I believe, 4 years now. And I've actually managed to keep that one alive. Normally I have issues with taking care of plants. But that one's been a very low maintenance plant, and I love how it looks in the living room, so I need to find more low maintenance plants like that. I'm going to add one more over here, and I want it to look like it's still maybe like a little bud. So I'm just going to, or maybe I'll do two. I'm just going to do like 2 little buds here. So basically we're just doing a little circle, maybe a few leaves around it. just like this. Super simple. There's a lot of different ways to paint peonies, but I wanted to keep this one pretty simple. I know there's ways to paint them, you know, where it's all sketched out and it looks, you know, a lot more detailed, but sometimes I want something quick and easy to paint that's honestly more relaxing than anything. And for me, peonies are very relaxing to paint when they're made simple. I love how those look. Let's go ahead and do the leaves before we do the center. So I'm just gonna go ahead and mix up the green color. And so I'm just gonna use green and white to get our light green. I love the look of more muted green, so I'm gonna add a little bit of brown in there as well. That way it's not too bright of a color. And then for the leaves, I'm just gonna go ahead and put them wherever I want. So let's do one big one down here, and we're just gonna press down our brush and then lightly tap it so it comes to a point. And I'm just gonna go in that motion around the flowers. Maybe I'll add a few little leaves around here. Really no strategic way that I'm putting these. I'm also gonna add a darker green after we get our base down for the leaves. I just like to see where some space needs to be filled. So mainly around this large flower that we've got here. Add one over here. And then while the paint's still wet, I'm gonna go ahead and mix up a darker green color, maybe some black in there. A little too much black. And I'm just gonna go in and tap that color in while the paint's wet. That way we have a nice blend here. And I just wanna keep it more at the part of the leaf that's closer to the flower. Like that. Maybe add a little bit of lines here and there within the leaves. I always think the paintings start to really come together when we add these shadows in. I always have what are called ugly phases in paintings where, you know, it's like an initial layer and I haven't really added too much depth in. I always start to like kind of panic during those phases, wondering if the painting's gonna turn out okay, but it always does when you keep going. Okay, let's go ahead and I want to put one more here. I kind of missed that spot a little bit. Grab our lighter green right here. Now, I'm going to grab my smaller brush right now. I kind of forgot to use this brush at all during this painting. I am going to add some baby's breath maybe around the edges here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix some blue and white and maybe a little bit of purple. Just really want to get a light color right here. Okay, so then for the baby's breath, I'm not going to be too strategic about this. I'm just going to kind of make some dotted motions here. Little clusters of baby's breath. You don't want it to be too uniformed. I always like to be a little chaotic when it comes to flowers just because they are chaotic. They're not, you know, they're not in a perfect line. They're kind of scattered about. So, especially when I'm doing flower field landscapes, I always say to not make straight, you know, make sure that they're not evenly split, that they're kind of grouped in different ways. It makes it look more realistic that way. gonna go ahead and put a few here at the bottom. Maybe a few within this little area over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a green, maybe a darker green color here, and I'm going to add our little stems in for the baby's breath. So I'm taking the tip of this brush here, and I'm just going to make a straight line towards the baby's breath, and then we're going to branch that out just like so. And we want to touch it to the tip of the baby's breath, and since the paint is still a little bit wet, that is okay that it's starting to blend in with the baby's breath. I actually want it to blend a little bit, and I'm going to add a little bit more green here at the base of the flowers. That way it kind of looks like it's part of the stem. Go ahead and do that to the top one. I always love little details like this when they're added to paintings. I think it just really ties it together. Remember to breathe during this part. It's always tedious to add straight lines, and when I'm doing tedious things in paintings, I forget to breathe. So don't do that. Go ahead and, take a pause, take a breath if you need. Love how that looks. Let's go ahead and do our last little one over here. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add our yellow centers to the flowers. So what we're gonna do is mix a yellow, and I want it to be kind of more of a mustard. So with this palette, I'm going to take the orange, some yellow, and white. And I'm just going to go ahead and add that in the center here. I'm going to make some dotted motions around the edges. Might want to add a little bit of brown in there. Go ahead and do that to each of the flowers. The ones that are closed, you might not have as much room to add the yellow, and that's okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit more brown, a little bit of purple, and I'm going to add this at the bottom edge of this area. I'm going to do the same one to the one up here. This just gives it a little bit more depth. I'm just going to take some dots and put that up near the petals here. Okay, and the very last thing, and totally optional if you feel like you need to add any more shadows to your petals, so I might add a little bit more here and take just a little bit of a darker color. So I'm mixing purple and blue with some red. Maybe a little bit of brown, just all the colors. And if you want, you can just add some more shadows to your petals at the base. I always try to keep it light if I can, but totally okay to skip this part if you're happy with how your petals look. Adding a little bit more to this middle flower. And our watercolor peonies are complete. I hope you all learned something from this video today and walk away with a beautiful peony flower painting. If there's another flower you want to learn how to paint, or really anything, go ahead and let me know in the comments below. And as always, you can find me on social media at Watercolor with Emily and my website, watercolorwithemily.com, where you can keep up with me on my blog and my newsletter. I'd love if you liked this video and subscribe to my channel, and until we paint again next time.